Let's begin your adventures in dreamland. Soft, surreal, and slightly cheeky sleep stories with awe and wonder. I'm Serene, your guide tonight. In a world of noise and endless options, you chose stillness with me. That means a lot. Dreamland floats across the world each night. Tell our community where we landed. And if you're vibing with Dreamland, a like and a subscribe tells the algorithm, hey, share the awe with others. And we know the world could use more wonder, more metaphysical, more of the unseen than the seen. We've forgotten we're spirit first, matter second. And if brushing your teeth didn't happen tonight, don't worry, you can still drift off with a clean conscience. Now, we return to what we are. Sleep isn't an escape. It's a temporary return, one we can't always access or remember. In the sleep state, the senses soften, the ego fades, and what remains is more of who you truly are. We forget our names, bodies, nationalities, possessions, and frailties. We unconsciously enjoy the great freedom that is native to the soul. Pure awareness, curiosity, and at the deepest fundamental level, in both physics and spirit, we are made of light, untouched by time, existing outside of it, free, a wave in the ocean of being. So let go. You are returning to your purest form. Freedom. Your story begins. Rethinking the double-slit experiment is part 3 of a trilogy. Episode 29, and lives in our Dream Studies playlist, where we drift deeper into the academic side of wonder. If you'd prefer a lighter, more relaxed version, a Dream Wonders adaptation will be arriving soon. Tonight's journey honors the work of physicist Nassim Haramein, whose explorations of the vacuum, protons as micro black holes, and the geometry of space weave a bold vision of reality. While some of his interpretations diverge from mainstream physics, they invite us to imagine a universe rich with energy and connection. If you wish to learn more, you can explore his research at resonancescience.org. This episode explores one of the strangest and most beautiful mysteries in physics, the quantum world's ability to behave like both waves and particles, and what that means for you, the observer. The room leans into quiet. A soft shimmer gathers, the gentle drift of stardust. Serene's voice arrives with it, warm and unhurried. Welcome back. Yep, it's me, Serene. This is the third part of our journey. Before we floated through the sea beneath everything, and we've traced the fabric that holds it all. And tonight, we listen for the wave itself, The glow deepens, as if the dark is pleased to make space for wonder. Tonight, we turn to the strange, playful edge of quantum behavior, Serene continues, where light seems to whisper. We'll meet the double-slit experiment, the idea of a guiding pilot wave, and the quiet possibility that our attention feeds back into the field. She lets the hush settle. What you're about to hear is a different way of understanding the famous double-slit experiment, an alternative to the usual Copenhagen interpretation. Most of us were taught "stay with me." We'll watch how the universe chooses a path and notice how it sometimes waits for us before it does. Chapter 1: Double-Slit Experiment, the Mystery of Light. The room is dark enough to hear your own breath. That's good. Quiet is a kind of instrument. In that quiet, Serene drifts beside you like a soft constellation. And I'll speak plainly, the way I do when I'm drawing on a board no one can see, but everyone can feel. Picture a narrow beam of light, not a shout, just a whisper of photons. Ahead of it stands a small plate with two thin openings carved side by side. Behind that, a screen waits like calm water, ready to show what actually happened. If light were only little bullets, you would expect two bright stripes on the screen, one behind each slit, neat and obvious. But when you let the beam run and you don't look to see which slit is used, something stranger appears. Instead of two stripes, the screen blooms with a series of lighter and darker bands, a delicate barcode of brightness. This is an interference pattern, the calling card of a wave. It is as if light skimmed through both openings at once, fanned out like ripples from two pebbles tossed into a pond, and those ripples overlapped, crest meeting crest to brighten, crest meeting trough to dim, until the whole surface wrote down their conversation. Serene lets the hush widen, and I'll tell you the part that makes even seasoned physicists smile in the dark. You can turn the brightness down so low that photons leave the source one at a time. Lonely travelers, separated by long pauses, as if you sent fireflies through the slits with a century between them. Each firefly lands as a single dot, a point and nothing more. But give them time. Let 1,000 dots arrive, and the same wave-born barcode slowly paints itself into existence. One by one by one, the pattern emerges. A particle leaves a single footprint, and yet all the footprints know a wave's map. Serene stardust shivers, pleased by the paradox. It's the universe doing calligraphy with very small pens. Now, the mischief. Place a tiny detector at the slits to ask a nosy question. Which way did you go? The moment you insist on knowing the path, the interference vanishes. Your screen no longer displays the elegant stripe and shadow rhythm. It collapses into the two ordinary bands you expected from little pellets. Same source, same slits, same screen. The only difference is that you peered in and demanded a story about the route. the wave's signature dissolves, and the pattern becomes local, narrow, definite, particle-like. Serene calls it the great cosmic peekaboo, and she's not wrong. Peek, and the universe covers its tracks. Don't peek, and it traces lacework on the wall. Here is how Nassim may invite you to feel this without wrestling it into contradiction. The wave is not pretend. The wave is not simply our ignorance. The wave is the behavior of a real physical medium. The vacuum itself, the sea beneath everything, carrying information about all possible paths through both openings. When you don't try to pin the photon to a single corridor, it remains in conversation with that sea. The field explores options, superposes possibilities, and the resulting interference is the ledger of that exploration. When you interrogate the photon, you change the relationship. You don't just learn, you participate. Your measuring device couples to the field, imposes a boundary condition, and the vacuum resolves the situation under tighter constraints. The pattern adjusts, and it must, because the medium is responsive. Serene hums at your shoulder, a small tide, agreeing with the moon. This isn't only a light trick. Electrons, supposedly matter, supposedly little marbles, will draw the same wave stripe pattern when you let them pass two slits without prying. Even large molecules, built from dozens of atoms, can paint interference if you give them a quiet corridor. The lesson keeps repeating at larger scales than anyone expected. Left to its own deep conversation, reality behaves as if guided by a pervasive wave. Cornered, it gives you a single path and a tidy dot, like a student rushing to answer before the bell. So what is really waving? In the picture I'm offering you tonight, it is not an abstract probability that exists only on paper. It is the oscillation of the vacuum itself, a pilot tide that lives in every cubic centimeter of space. Think of the two-slit plate as placing a geometric question into that tide. Two narrow openings become two sources of gentle ripples in the field, and those ripples interfere, sculpting a map of high and low guidance across the screen. The photon, the electron, the drifting molecule, each is a tiny boat that tends to land where the tide carries it. Where the wave peaks, arrivals accumulate. Where it cancels, they thin. That is why single dots build a collective image of a wave. Each landing is local, but the guidance is global. Serene lets a playful thought drift by. If you insist on following a boat with a bright flashlight and a clipboard, the water will never behave like it does when no one is speaking. Your focus disturbs the surface, however gently, and the current you hope to document becomes the current you just created. No blame, just participation. Notice something subtle here. The detector that which way measures is not a pair of magical eyes. It is a physical system coupled to the field. Its act of reading is an act of writing. Information is exchanged,
correlations are established, and the entire sea updates to include the new boundary you set. When the medium rebalances, the interference map you would have seen in the quiet is replaced by a new map that honors your question. This is what people call collapse. I call it a change in conversation. Do not rush to decide whether the photon really went through one slit or both. In the field's view, that is not the right tense. Before you measure, the question itself is premature. After you measure, the answer is constrained by your choice of instrument. The wave whispers all the ways. The particle marks one agreement. Serene nudges a hint toward the next chapter, but we won't open it yet. If a particle draws dots and the field draws waves, perhaps the most accurate picture is both at once, a small craft and the ocean that carries it. Perhaps the interference is the ocean telling you where the boats will likely come ashore. Perhaps observation is not a spotlight from outside, but a feedback into the water, a ripple that teaches the tide to change its mind. For tonight, hold the simplest image. 2 slits in a plate, a screen beyond. Let the light whisper through. If you leave the sea to do its work, patterns bloom that no bullet can make. If you demand a single path, the sea obliges and smooths the lace into straightforward stripes. Neither outcome is a trick. Both are the field being honest about the question you asked. Serene stardust dims and brightens with your breath. You don't have to solve the paradox. You only have to notice its kindness. The universe is generous enough to show you waves when you listen for waves, and dots when you ask for dots. Somewhere between those 2 manners of speaking is the fluency we're learning, and the first word it teaches is this: relationship. Chapter 2: Pilot Wave Theory, a hidden guide beneath it all. The hush of the room lingers after the mystery of the double-slit experiment. Serene's voice warms in the quiet, as if she's leaning just a little closer. In the 1920s, she begins, a young physicist named Louis de Broglie dared to ask a different question. What if particles aren't just popping up randomly, but are actually surfing on a hidden wave? The idea was bold, even radical for its time. Physics had already embraced the strange duality of matter behaving like both particles and waves. But de Broglie suggested something deeper, that every particle's motion is guided by a real physical wave, not just a probability written in equations, an actual pilot wave stretching through space and time, telling the particle which way to go. Picture this wave like a tide rolling invisibly through the room. Each electron, each photon, each molecule is a tiny surfer, leaning into that tide and letting it steer its path. The wave is broad, continuous, and everywhere a whisper beneath reality. Serene lets the listener sit with the image. Tiny surfers, she says softly. They're not lost. They're not gambling.
They're following the current that was there all along. De Broglie's pilot wave theory didn't win the argument back then. The Copenhagen interpretation, the one most of us were taught, became the standard view. It was cleaner, simpler. The wave was treated as a tool for prediction, not a physical thing. The pilot wave faded into the background of history. But decades later, physicist David Bohm returned to the idea. Bohm showed that if you take de Broglie's wave seriously, if you treat it as something real, you can reproduce the results of quantum mechanics in a way that is precise and deterministic. The strangeness of probability becomes the elegance of a guided path. Each particle is still free, still dynamic, but it is also accompanied by this invisible map that leads it home. Serene drifts like a quiet current herself. It's comforting, isn't it? She murmurs. To think the universe is not just throwing dice, but carrying everything on a tide. You are never just a dot on a screen. There is always a wave under your feet. Imagine the whole room gently humming with this hidden wave. The floor, the walls, the air itself, alive with a subtle rhythm. Particles aren't choosing at random. They are responding to the shape of this rhythm, falling into its pattern like dancers hearing music. According to Haramein's perspective, this guiding wave might even be the vacuum itself. The same ocean of energy we explored in episode 1. Not just an abstract tool, but a physically real field whose oscillations create the pilot wave. In this view, every particle carries a relationship with the entire field, tracing graceful paths determined by the sea beneath everything. Serene's voice softens, slowing as if to match the tide. Picture each electron like a boat, she says. You don't have to know exactly where it is at every moment. You just know the current is carrying it somewhere meaningful. The beauty of the pilot wave idea is that it doesn't remove the mystery, it deepens it. The particle is local, but the wave is global. The little surfer only touches one point of the ocean, yet its course is guided by the shape of the whole sea. Serene lets that thought hang in the air, long enough for the listener to feel its weight. Maybe this is why the double-slit experiment feels so alive, she says, because there's more here than particles choosing doors. There's a whole tide shaping where they land. The stardust around you seems to shimmer with that thought, as though the room itself is full of invisible ripples. You can almost sense the guiding wave stretching beyond the walls, beyond the planet, beyond everything, carrying each particle, each moment, gently toward its next shore. Chapter 3. Haramein's Spin. Vacuum as the guiding wave. The room feels even quieter now, as if it's holding its breath. Serene stardust glows faintly, her voice low and steady. If pilot wave theory is right, she says, then there must be a real ocean beneath these particles. Something big enough to hold all the possible paths, and delicate enough to guide each one. This is where Nassim Haramein's view of the universe
enters the conversation. In his model, the guiding wave is not just a metaphor. It is the vacuum itself, the 0-point field, alive with energy. The space you think of as empty is anything but. It is humming with fluctuations, teeming with potential, a vast sea in which all particles float. Serene lets the image settle like a tide rising slowly around your ankles. Picture this vacuum not as nothing, she continues, but as the richest thing there is, a boundless ocean of energy. In Haramein's vision, each particle is like a tiny boat carried by that ocean. Its position and path are not chosen randomly, but shaped by the flow of the field it inhabits. Where the current swirls, the particle loops. Where the current bends, the particle arcs. Serene stardust shimmers with quiet delight. The tide has always been here, she says gently. We are only just learning to feel it. In this picture, every point in space is alive with motion. Not chaotic motion, but structured, patterned, ordered. The vacuum behaves like an infinite set of tiny whirlpools, each one spinning energy in a toroidal flow, a donut-shaped dance that recycles information endlessly. Imagine shrinking down far enough to see this flow directly. You would see each particle tracing a tiny, elegant loop, like a miniature galaxy spinning in place, or a droplet forever folding back into itself. This toroidal motion, Haramein suggests, is not just beautiful, it is essential. It's how particles stay plugged into the field, exchanging energy with the whole universe moment by moment. Serene speaks slowly now, as if she, too, is watching those loops turn. Every particle is a dancer, she says, and the floor it dances on is alive. In this view, the vacuum is not a silent backdrop for events. It is the event. The guiding wave is not a mathematical ghost, but a physical tide, constantly humming, constantly responding. When a particle moves, the field ripples. When the field ripples, the particle moves. The two are in constant conversation. Serene's voice dips into a near whisper. And so, the universe is not random after all, she says. It is guided. It is connected. It is listening. Let yourself imagine the whole room as one great resonant chamber. Every breath you take, every movement you make, slightly alters the flow of the field. Not in a grand, dramatic way, but in the subtle way a single pebble can shift the ripples on a pond. This is the heart of Haramein's spin on the pilot wave. Not only is there a wave guiding the particle, but that wave is woven from the very fabric of space-time. The particle's motion is a trace on that fabric, a signature of how the universe holds itself together. Serene lets the hush return for a moment, giving space for the image to settle. The room feels almost alive now, as if the walls themselves are breathing along with you. Reality she says at last, is a tide we are all riding. And tonight, we have learned to hear it whisper. The stardust dims slightly, a signal that this chapter is closing. The next question is already forming, waiting just ahead. If this vacuum is truly alive, what happens when we observe it? What happens when we add our attention to the dance? Chapter 4: Conscious Observation. Feedback into the field. The room feels charged now, as if the quiet has been listening along. Serene stardust drifts slowly, like it's waiting for you to notice the next layer. What if observation isn't just a light shining on the world? She asks softly. What if it's a ripple in the water, one that changes the wave itself? The double-slit experiment already hinted at this. The very act of watching changed the outcome. But what if that effect runs deeper than just detectors and measuring devices? What if every act of awareness is also an act of participation? Imagine tossing a small pebble into a calm pond. The ripples spread outward, meeting every other ripple already on the surface. They don't just passively watch, they interfere, combine, and shape what the water does next. In this view, consciousness might be the pebble, or maybe it's a continuous drizzle of rain, forever adding its own pattern to the vacuum's hum. Serene lets that sink in, then adds a line with a smile in her voice. Careful, she says playfully. Your thoughts might be bending the path of light right now. No pressure. The stardust seems to shimmer at the joke, then quiets as she continues. This isn't about mysticism, Serene says, and it doesn't need to be. The field responds to information. Every measurement, every interaction is a kind of message. Your observation feeds data back into the field, and the field updates its pattern. Haramein's model imagines this as a constant conversation, a feedback loop between every point of awareness and the vacuum itself. When you focus on something, your attention may act like a gentle pressure on the tide, ever so slightly changing where the currents flow. The idea doesn't have to be strange. After all, physics already treats measurement as an interaction that couples observer and observed. The wave function doesn't just collapse on its own. It collapses because something interacted with it, leaving a record in the world. Consciousness could simply be the most intimate, immediate form of that interaction. Serene's voice turns almost meditative. You are not outside the experiment, she says. You are in it. Your awareness is stitched into the same field as the particles, the waves, the galaxies. You are one more node in the network, sending and receiving signals with every moment of attention. The room feels alive again, like you could almost hear the air vibrating in response. The thought is both humbling and empowering. The universe is not just happening to you, it is happening with you. Serene stardust glows brighter for a moment. It means your attention matters, she says simply. Not just to you, but to the field itself. Imagine sitting still for a moment, feeling your own breath, noticing the weight of your body against the floor. That noticing, in this view, is not nothing. It is a quiet signal sent into the web of space-time, a small but real contribution to the pattern being woven everywhere. The hush grows wide again, almost like the pause before the next tide rolls in. Serene leaves you there, aware that this idea takes time to settle. You don't have to force it, she says at last. Just knowing you are part of the dance is enough. The wave will carry you whether you watch or not, but it might just be listening to you as well. Chapter 5. Your role in the cosmic dance. The room is still, but not empty. It feels full, as if the air itself is listening with you. Serene's voice arrives softly, carrying a quiet invitation. Now, she says, imagine yourself as part of this experiment, not watching from the outside, not just looking at dots on a screen, but inside the system, shaping it as you go. Her words fall slowly, giving you space to feel them. Every thought you have, she continues, is a brushstroke on reality's canvas. Each moment of awareness is a ripple in the tide that guides every photon, every electron, every turning galaxy. There's a long pause, the kind that feels like a breath held by the whole room. You don't need to control it, Serene assures gently. You don't need to force the wave to turn this way or that. All you have to do is notice. Notice that you are here. Notice that you are part of it. In your mind's eye, the experiment unfolds again. The two slits, the waiting screen, the quiet beam of light. Each photon hesitates at the threshold, as though listening for some signal before making its leap. Even the smallest photon, Serene whispers, waits for your attention before choosing its path. Her words hang like starlight, soft but undeniable. From this image, Serene expands your view. From the slits and the photons to the whole room, the whole field, the whole sky. Your presence ripples outward, she says, through the air around you, through the earth under your feet, through the 0-point field that threads every star. Each breath you take is a quiet message, and the field answers with a pattern that includes you. Let the idea settle, like moonlight slowly filling a tide pool. Your own awareness feels wider now, as though you could sense the subtle flow of the vacuum across the floor, through the walls, through the night beyond. This is what it means to be an observer, Serene says, not a detached spectator, but a partner in the dance. The universe is not happening somewhere else. It is happening right here, where you are. The stardust around you glows faintly, matching the rhythm of your breath. You are both the experiment and the experimenter, both the brush and the canvas. Serene lets a longer silence pass now, as if giving the wave time to rearrange itself with this new truth. You don't have to solve the mystery tonight, she says at last. It will still be here in the morning, still whispering, but now you know that it whispers with you, not just to you.
The thought lands softly, leaving a feeling of connection, as though you have just stepped into a wider circle of belonging. Serene's voice slows, almost fading into the quiet. Rest with that, she says. Rest with the knowing that even the smallest light waits for you before it chooses its path. Another pause. Then the stardust dims, leaving the room calm and ready for sleep. The stardust gathers one last time, bright enough to feel, soft enough not to wake you. "Thank you," Serene says, her voice slow and warm, "for joining me through this trilogy, for floating through the sea beneath everything, tracing the fabric that holds it all, and listening tonight for the wave that whispers. There's a pause, a breath shared with the dark. The wave will keep whispering," she assures, "even as you sleep. The dance of particles will go on without you, and that is its gift." Serene's voice becomes almost a lullaby. "The experiment goes on," she says gently, "but tonight you can rest." The glow around you fades until only the quiet remains. Serene guides you into slow breathing, in, then out, as if rocking you on a tide. The room feels softer, darker, ready to hold your dreams. Somewhere, beyond the edge of waking, the first notes of ambient music begin to play, and the wave keeps whispering, "Sweet dreams."